When we think about the formation of the Earth-Moon system, most people are aware that one of the leading theories is that a second smaller planet hit the Earth early on, and then we're left with the Earth-Moon system. But where did that actual small second planet come from? Where did it originate from? Did it originate close to Earth? Did it come from further away? Where did it actually come from? Well, if we go to the actual Earth-Moon system and how it was actually formed, the leading theory at the moment is that it was a giant impact by a smaller planet called Theia that hit the early Earth. And that impacted the Earth, it then left a disk of debris around it, and then the Moon coalesces from that disk of material, and then we're left with this Earth-Moon system that we see today. So the leading theory is that there was a smaller Mars-sized planet named Theia that hit us. We then got left with the Moon and the Earth, and explained various different things as to what we see now. Now, some more recent research has suggested that this process is fairly fast, fairly quick, and it can actually form the Moon within hours of the original impact, as opposed to taking a very long time. So it's actually a fairly fast process from this giant impact. Now, there are a few other theories which can be discussed but don't necessarily hold up particularly well. Now, one of those is that the Moon actually formed with the Earth. So in the formation process, planets form in this disk around the star. Moons can then form around the planets at the same time, as you then have material around the planet as that's kind of growing and coalescing. Now, Jupiter's moons, like the Galilean moons, formed in this way. They orbit in the same direction that the planet rotates, and they're fairly large. They have formed with the planet. There's various different ways that you can form a moon as well, but this one doesn't necessarily hold up particularly well, for the same reason that this one doesn't either. So another theory was that the young early Earth was spinning quite fast enough that molten material off its surface was thrown out into space. That then coalesced into the Moon, and then we have the Moon and the Earth. But none of these actually account for the high angular momentum of the Earth-Moon system we see today. So these can pretty much be discounted because of that. Now, if we go back to the planet formation process, the planets form in these disks around a star. So you can see, depending on where the planet is, it will grow. The moons can sometimes form with it, but they grow in a disk around a star, and they coalesce from all the material around them. So as they get bigger, they actually take in more material, and that's the general idea. Now, during that process, they can migrate. So if they're in that disk, the planet actually distorts the disk around them. It actually causes these spiral waves, or if it's big enough, it can create a bit of a gap. And that planet can then move in the disk depending on how it's affecting the disk. So the disk can actually almost push back on it. And there's an exchange of angular momentum, which means that the planet can go in or out. So during the formation process, planets can move around. And where they form doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stay where they are. And it actually explains why we see some of these bizarre systems around other stars. Now, the thing we need to have a look at now is Lagrange points. So the Lagrange points are points of equilibrium for small mass objects, so very small objects in comparison to maybe the planets and the stars. So it could be asteroid sort of size. And these are under the influence of two massive objects. So this, for example, will take the Earth and the Sun. So you've got a star, which is the most massive object. You have the planet, which is the Earth, which is the second large mass, and then a smaller mass, which is almost negligible compared to the other two. So we'll take an example as a asteroid or a small moon. So when you then look at the configuration of that, you've got the Sun in the center, then you've got the Earth. There are 5 Lagrange points in this system. Now, the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, are on a line between the Sun and the Earth. They're not particularly stable, so if you have an object there, they won't remain there. They can fall off the point, and then that's it, they're no longer stable. But the ones we're interested in here is the L4 and L5. So these are 60 degrees in front and behind on the same orbit as the second massive object, which is the Earth in this situation here. Now, as the Earth orbits the Sun, those points move relative to the orbit of the Earth. So 180 degrees round, it'll be configured like this. So that L4 and L5 Lagrange point would always be in front and behind by 60 degrees compared to the Earth. So it's on the same orbit, just it leads it or trails it. Now, if you placed an object at one of those locations, we actually do put spacecraft there because it means we don't have to use as much fuel, then they will orbit that particular point. Now, you have to think that that point then orbits the sun as well. So as you go around on its orbit, it looks very bizarre. It always makes these spiral motions as it kind of goes around the sun when we look at it from a reference point. So they're quite stable to a point. And a really good example of how stable they are is Jupiter. So Jupiter has the Trojan asteroids, which are co-orbital asteroids with Jupiter. And again, you can see Jupiter here, and you've got the Sun. Now, the reference frame is rotated so that it stays in the same configuration, but you can see the movement of those asteroids at the L4 and L5 Lagrange points. They kind of orbit around those points. They almost make these tadpole-shaped orbits. Now, sometimes they can all go all the way around. They can go all the way around and create a horseshoe orbit and come back. So they can actually go from L4 to L5. But the point is that these can be captured. So Jupiter has captured all of these, and they remain there relatively stable and just orbiting these points. But Jupiter's quite large, has a large gravitational influence. Now, if we go back 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth would have been forming in the disk, but at the L4 and L5 Lagrange point at the same time, it's theorized that Theia, this smaller planet, would have grown at one of those locations. So it's quite small at this time. It's that small mass that can fit into the Lagrange points, and it grows there whilst the Earth is obviously still there as well. So it starts to grow at that point about 4.5 billion years ago. Now, again, those points are stable. So the actual, or the small object planet Theia is going to orbit the L4 and L5 Lagrange point whilst it's growing. But at some point, it grows to about the size of Mars, or about 10% the mass of the Earth. And once it gets to that size, it can no longer remain stable at the L4 or L5 Lagrange point. In fact, it can be disturbed or perturbed by other planets in the system at this point, and it gets knocked off the L4, L5 Lagrange point. So just to give you an illustration or idea here, it then is knocked off the L4 point here, and then it wanders towards the Earth. You then get your collision with the early Earth, and then the subsequent Earth-Moon system that then forms. So Theia actually it's likely that it grew fairly close to Earth and then was just destabilized once it got too big, and then we had this collision. However, some more, again, recent research that has looked at the composition of the Earth has suggested it might have actually formed further out in the solar system. This is Theia, or the planet that hit Earth. It formed further out in the solar system where water was more abundant. Now, why is that the case? Well, you've got certain isotopic composition in Earth's mantle which suggests that it's come from the outer solar system. So these would be heavy, and if the Earth formed in one go, they should have basically sunk to the centre of the planet because they're heavier elements. But when you actually look at the composition of the crust, it suggests that it's had a giant impact and it's made up of something that has come from further out, because these elements and that these what we've actually found in the crust are formed in an environment that has higher water content. So actually a lot of water on Earth has also been brought to Earth by Theia because it formed further out in the solar system. So actually there's these two ideas now that don't necessarily work together. So it's possible that it formed at one of these Lagrange points, and that works for the giant impact theory, but there's some evidence to suggest that Theia may have originated much further out in the solar system and has come in. Now, if that is the case, it's possible that there's been a scattering event. So we suggested that planets can move around in the disk as they're forming. And if that happens, planets can interact or pass by each other without actually colliding. And when they do that, they can actually throw the smaller planet inwards or outwards. And this is what could have happened here. But again, it's still not fully confirmed where it's come from, but these are two of the main ideas where it might have originated from. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoy, then check out some of the other videos.